L-E-S is my first name. A-B-B-A-S-I is my last name. And I'm the attorney for candidate Karen Lewis. And candidate Lewis herself is also on this Zoom call.
Excellent. Members of the Electoral Board, what we have here is a motion to dismiss has been filed to dismiss the objector's petition that was filed by Mr. Abbasi. And of course, the objector's petition was filed by Mr. Erdman. Mr. Erdman has also responded in writing to the motion to dismiss. Both of these documents were submitted in the time frame that the Electoral Board laid out at its first meeting. Have all of the Electoral Board members received copies of these documents?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. And you've had a chance to review them as well?
That is correct.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, then we will turn things over for oral arguments if either attorney would like to make them. And because what we're actually doing here is we're considering two separate things. We're first considering as a preliminary issue the motion to dismiss. And then depending on how you decide on that is whether you actually would rule on the contents of the objector's petition. So first is just the question of whether you should consider the objector's petition. That's the point of Mr. Abbasi's motion. And so, Mr. Abbasi, do you have anything you would like to say?
Yes, thank you, counsel. So the objector's petition for candidate Lewis contains only one issue, and it's an issue of whether there's a basis of confusion as to what office candidate Lewis is running for. The petition sheets describe the office as a member of the Board of Trustees. The objector points to section 3.1-45(5) of the Municipal Code, to one sentence in it, which says, the Board of Trustees shall consist of the president and trustees. This sentence does not say that the president is a member of the Board of Trustees. And in fact, analyzing the Municipal Code and the Election Code shows that member of the Board of Trustees means trustee. And because member of the Board of Trustees means trustee and only trustee, the terms are synonymous. The petition sheets, candidate Lewis's petition sheets, do not create a basis of confusion because the only office that they are describing is that of village trustee of University Park. So in the same section that the objector cites, or this of the Municipal Code, it also says that the president of the Board of Trustees may exercise the same veto power as the mayor of a city. And it's important because when it says the Board of Trustees consists of the president and trustees, the president is the president of the Board of Trustees, but the trustees are the members of the Board of Trustees. So the Board of Trustees has a president and it has members. The village president is the president of the Board of Trustees, not a member. The trustees are the members. In the same section, it also, the next section, 3.1-4510, states the president and Board of Trustees may prescribe the duties of the officers appointed under this section. The fact that it has the word "and" there, the president and Board of Trustees, shows that there is a distinction between the president and the trustees. In another part of the Municipal Code dealing with villages, it says, in each village incorporated under this code, the electors of the village shall elect 6 trustees. That's section 3.1-25-5. The next section, 3.1-25-10, shows that the Municipal Code uses the term member of the Board of Trustees and trustee interchangeably and synonymously. They mean the same thing. This deals with it deals with the case of villages under 5,000 residents who can switch from 6 trustees to 4 trustees. And reading it, it says, any village board of a village under 5,000 population incorporated under this code may by resolution provide for a referendum on the question of whether the Board of Trustees shall be comprised of 4 members rather than 6 members. Note that section there, it doesn't, if the objector was correct, that the president is a member of the Board of Trustees, it would say 7 members or 5 members, but instead it says 6 members or 4 members because a member is a trustee and the president is a president of the Board of Trustees, not a member. The section goes on to say, The referendum shall be held in accordance with general election law. If a majority of those voting on the question vote in favor of reducing the trustees from 6 to 4, the number of trustees shall be reduced to 4. In order to provide the transition from 6-member boards to 4-member boards, 2 trustees shall be elected at the general municipal election in each odd number year after the adoption of the referendum, when trustees are elected to 4-year terms at the general municipal election in each year after the adoption of the referendum, when trustees are elected for 2 years terms. Any village that changes from a 6-member board to a 4-member board may thereafter return to a 6-member board. So this whole section shows that the terms member and trustee are interchangeable. Again, the mayor, or excuse me, the village president is not included. Otherwise, it would say a 7-member board with 6 trustees to a 5-member board with 4 trustees. But instead, it interchangeably uses 6 members, 6 trustees, 4 members, 4 trustees. So the municipal code is clear that member only means trustee. When referring to the president of the board, that means the village president. Additionally, the election code makes it clear that member means trustee. It does not mean village president. And that deals with a section with who makes up municipal electoral boards, such as the one we're here at today. And it says, this is section 10-9, parentheses 3 of the election code, which states municipal officers electoral board to hear and pass upon objections to the nominations of candidates for officers of municipalities shall be composed of the mayor or president of the board of trustees of the city, village, or incorporated town, and the city, village, or incorporated town clerk. So we have the president for a village. The president of the board of trustees is 1 member. The clerk is the 2nd member, and then it says the member of the electoral board, not member of the board of trustees. But then it says, and 1 member of the city council or board of trustees, that member being designated who is eligible to serve on the electoral board and has served the greatest number of years as a member of the city council or board of trustees, of whom the mayor or president of the board of trustees shall be a chair. So the 3rd person on the electoral board is a member of the board of trustees. The 1st person is the president of the board of trustees. The 2nd is a member. If the objector was right that the village president was a member of the board of trustees, then the village president could be on the electoral board twice. But if that village president had the longest service in the village, if longer than any trustee, then they would both be the village president on the electoral board and the longest serving member on the electoral board. But that can't be the case. So the municipal code and election code both state that a trustee, a member of the board of trustees is only a trustee. Nowhere does it say the village president is a member of the board of trustees. When it says the village board of trustees constitutes the president and the trustees, again, the trustees are the members. The village president is the president of the board of trustees. And this is similar. This is not a unique situation. The Illinois Constitution, when describing the Cook County Board, says there's the president of the Cook County Board and members of the Cook County Board, and they're separate. And, for instance, it says the president of the Cook County Board may also seek election as a member of the board, which means they're 2 separate things, the president and a member. So the president is not a member. I also brought up a similar situation with the United States Senate, where the vice president of the United States is the president of the Senate, but she now is not a member of the United States Senate. Those are the senators. And therefore, the municipal code and the election code, they both say that member equals trustee. Nowhere, at no point, does it say that the village president is a member of the electoral board. And the objector has not brought any place where it does say that. And so the Supreme Court said in Lewis versus Dunn in 1976, Illinois Supreme Court, when there is no basis for confusion as to office for which the nomination papers are filed, the candidate is entitled to have her name on the ballot. In this case, there is no confusion because member of the electoral board only means village trustee. And therefore, it's clear that candidate Lewis is running for village trustee. There is no confusion. Therefore, there's no legal basis to the objection, and the objection must be stricken, and the candidate's name must be placed on the ballot. Thank you.
Rossi, does the board have any questions for Mr. Abbasi?
I don't at this time.
No, I'm perfectly clear.
I'm very clear on it as well.
All right. Then, Mr. Erdman, do you have anything to respond with?
I do. Mr. Abbasi's argument would be very convincing if we chose to ignore the clear language of 3.1-45-5, which says that the Board of Trustees shall consist of the president and trustees. That's what the board is. And when you say that you want to run for the Board of Trustees, then you have presidents and you have trustees. The fact that a president of a board might have veto power doesn't change that. The argument about who serves on electoral board, to presume that the election code would contemplate an elected official serving two roles by statute it's non-persuasive. It's ridiculous. It doesn't comport with what the argument has been made in the objectors petition. As far as Cook County goes, where's the statute that's analogous to 3.1-45-5? It hasn't been pointed to. It has been pointed out. The U.S. Senate and the federal government, no statute, no federal statute has pointed to that is analogous to this. We're left with the clear language of 3.1-45-5, which establishes how the board is consistent. What constitutes the board, and it is the president and the trustees. And if you say you want to join the board, then you have to tell people, I want to be the president, I want to be the trustee. The code names specifically in a clear sentence what the Board of Trustees shall consist of. And when you place that base sentence in front of a voter, I mean, that request in front of a voter, you can confuse them. And part of the evidence of that is in both these cases where there are some sheets that use one version and some sheets that use others. You have to place before the voters a clear indication of the office that you're running for, and the statute says what it says, and we can't ignore the statute as a reason for creating that confusion. It's right there. It's in the code. It doesn't change it just because the president has veto power. It doesn't change because of the U.S. Senate. It doesn't change because of Cook County. It's right there. The attempt to just ignore that clause in the statute, that's the bridge that counsel wants you to take with him to get to the rest of his arguments. And we can't ignore the code. The legal definition under the statute is what creates the confusion by definition. It exists because of the statute. The everybody knows what I mean argument doesn't work. That's been put before boards, time and again. Well, it's my village. Everybody knows what I'm running for. It's my city. I know everybody knows what I'm running for. It has to be clear. It has to be clear on the face of the petition, and it's not here. Thank you.
You're muted.
I'm on. I think it might be just lagging. I apologize.
Well, I think
Now, Mr. Erdman,
okay, now we can hear you.
you can hear me? Does the Electoral Board have any questions for Mr. Erdman?
I have one.
Can you,
The fact that.
can you hear me?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Mr. Erdman, your screen is frozen. We could hear you, but you're having some problems.
Yeah, and I'm having trouble. It's a question. It's a problem with the internet within the building. I'm going to try and switch to my hotspot on my phone.
You're good
It's
now.
been intermittent, and I can if we'll remedy it.
Wait a moment, Ms. Jones, to see if he can get a stronger signal here.
Oh, are we okay? Yeah, I'm going to switch.
We might be all right now. Try again, Mr. Urban.
Hang on.
Oh,
How are we now?
well, let's try it.
Okay.
Clerk
Thank
Jones?
you.
Clerk
Clerk
Jones?
Jones, you had a question?
Yes, since the notice that was published notifying the electorate, the residents, and any people wishing to run, specifically said the offices to be elected were 3 trustees. Does that make a difference in whether or not the mayor is a member of the board of trustees, when the notice specifically stated that the offices to be elected were 3 trustees?
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I'm trying to see the confusion. So that was my question.
Okay. All right. I didn't want to jump in before you finish.
Okay.
The notice that might appear in a village hall isn't what's placed before the voter. The voter sees what's placed before them when they're asked to sign the petition.
Okay.
So extrinsic things, again, like I said, people say, "Oh, I know it's my community. That I know everybody else in my community should know," and unfortunately, that's not how it works. A public notice, is available to people who happen to be in the village hall. If their business for the period during the petition gathering doesn't take them there, that doesn't provide them notice. What they do have to provide them notice is what's placed before them on the clipboard at the bus stop or at church or at the baseball game. That's what's presented to them, and that has to be clear.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Questions? Ms. Bowling?
Yeah, I was looking at the petitions as well, and nowhere does it say someone is running for village president, only for trustee. So I'm not clear on what do you mean by it needs to be a distinction between the for village trustee and village president.
Because of the statute. The statute controls what this office is about. It says the board of trustees will consist of A and B. And when you put that petition in front of somebody, no matter what it is, you have to say, "I'm running for A," or clearly say, "I'm running for B." And when you put a petition in front of somebody that uses statutory language that means A or B, that's what creates the problem.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If there are no other questions, we'll give Mr. Abbasi an opportunity to reply if he feels the need.
Excuse me, a short reply. I think that the objectors counsel is mischaracterizing my argument that I'm somehow pretending that the section 3.1-45.5 doesn't exist, or I'm trying to say it's not there. I address that argument. It does not say it says the board of trustees shall consist of the president and trustees. It doesn't say that the president is a member, and I explained what that means very thoroughly. That when it says it consists of a president and trustees, that means it has a president as a president of the board of trustees, and the and 6 trustees as members of the Board of Trustees. And I went through all the sections of the municipal code and the election code that explain that. So I'm not ignoring the section. I'm explaining it, and I'm explaining what the General Assembly intended. And I'll point out on the petition sheets, they do have the word trustee on them, Board of Trustees. A member of the Board of Trustees has the word trustee, and there's no evidence of actual confusion. No evidence was submitted that any voter was confused that candidate Lewis was running for trustee. And so that'll conclude my arguments. And thank you, Mr. Chairman, and the members of the board.
Just a quick moment.
Go ahead, Mr. Erdman.
I think we should all take notice of the fact that Mr. Abbasi just, articulately advanced a definition of what was meant by a sentence that doesn't say what he had to explain. It doesn't say that. It just says the Board of Trustees consists of the president and trustees. The fact that Mr. Abbasi has to explain that to us is the basis of the confusion. And we don't need to bring people in to say I was confused. What we say, we point to the language, and it's confusing on its face based on the statute.
Thank you very much.
And I'd like to add that I'm glad that this is not being decided by who has the largest mustache. Perry is looking good. I haven't seen him for a while because of
it grew under the face mask.
All right, gentlemen, thank you very much. Board, it would be appropriate now if you wanted to deliberate. I'd like to say a few things about the law before we get into that, though. We have a bit of an unusual situation just in terms of the way this needs to be broken up. As I mentioned, what we're considering right now is the motion to dismiss that Mr. Abbasi has filed against the objector's petition to try and dismiss the objector's petition for some failing, either a failing to state an issue of law properly or a failure for stating an undisputed fact. So what I would submit to the board, and if either Mr. Abbasi, it's your motion, so if I'm mischaracterizing it, please stop me. But what I would say is that the only question before the board right now is whether member of the Board of Trustees means village trustee. If those are synonymous, as Mr. Abbasi put it, that would be the initial issue that Mr. Erdman has put forth in his objector's petition. If you find that they are synonymous, then I would say there is no issue raised in the objector's petition and it should be dismissed. However, if you think that those are distinct terms, then we would proceed to the actual objector's petition itself and decide if that difference has any legal bearing. Does that make sense to the members of the board?
Yes. Yes.
So that's all I would say at this point. You can talk amongst yourselves. Unfortunately, there's not a provision of the Open Meetings Act that allows us to go into closed session to deliberate on this. It needs to be done in the open. So whoever would like to speak.
Well,
Madam Clerk?
Well, at this point, I'm pretty clear. I've read the statutes. I have gone over the petitions. I see the wording. So at this point, I would be ready to move forward to take action.
Yes, I agree.
I also have read it. Am I on mute? Let's see. I have also read petitions and the dismiss, strike to dismiss and whatever. So I too am ready to feel that it was explained. I am ready to proceed as well.
So then I would ask if anyone has a motion to make regarding the motion to dismiss, either to overrule the motion, which means to throw it out, or to sustain the motion, which means to grant it. Ms. Jones?
I make a motion to sustain the motion to dismiss.
I second.
Jones,
Yes,
Member Boulding,
Yes.
and Chair Rudez.
Yes.
The motion to dismiss is granted. The objector's petition is dismissed, which means that there is no need to consider the petition itself. Mr. Erdman? I'm sorry, before we get to that. Board members, we need to have a written decision approved by the board, and then that will be given to the parties, and that begins the clock for their time period to appeal. So what we'll need to do is we'll need to continue this meeting for a short time to prepare that written decision. You can look it over, and then either virtually or if we wanted, our rules allow for an electronic signature. The easiest thing is to just do an electronic signature. But we will actually need to vote to approve that decision. So if you could look at your schedule and see when we could come back, and this is just for the approval of the decision. So it should not take a very long amount of time, and it will just be a continued meeting. So if we wanted it to be in less than 48 hours, we could even do that. I plan to have this ready for your review tonight. So if there's sometime this weekend you wanted to do it, or Monday, whatever the case may be. And then we can check with the attorneys and parties to see if they're available.
Monday would work for me.
Monday works for both Rudez and Jones, Ms. Boulding?
At 6.
Is it possible that we could do earlier in the day around 4:30? Would that be possible?
That would be fine, because I have another meeting, Zoom at 7, so that would be better. I mean, I don't know, I'm okay with that.
Mr. Erdman has a
Yeah,
question.
I'm in hearings from 9 to 11:45, and then 1 o'clock to 4:15, and then 6 o'clock for probably about 4 hours on that 6 o'clock hearing. Is the next day a possibility?
That's board meeting?
That's council
We've
meeting.
got council meeting.
Yeah, that's board meeting.
Would it be possible to just do it prior to the council meeting?
I mean, it's all right with me. It's up to the other members as well. When you
It's
say
not-
prior to, you mean like at 4 o'clock or something of that nature?
Well, I mean, Mr. Morton, I anticipated that this is 15 minutes worth of
At
work.
most, yes, it should be short.
So that just 15 minutes prior to the start of the other hearing, so everybody would already be engaged in.
So let's say 6:30. How does 6:30 sound?
It's okay with me.
Yeah, that's good.
I'm trying to make it good for you, D, because you get everything to do for the board meeting, so you know,
Yeah.
I'm good.
And
Oh, that's right, and the funeral, right.
Yeah, but 6:30 on Tuesday would work for me.
Okay. That's
Mr.
good for
Abbasi,
me,
does
Ms.
that work
Urban.
for you as well?
Yes, and it's 6:30 on Tuesday would work for me.
Okay, so that's what we'll do then. 6:30 p.m. on Tuesday. And at the end of this meeting, we'll just consider it a continued meeting. We've announced the date, and it'll be by Zoom again. So Clerk Jones, there will be no need to post a separate agenda for this.
Mr. Abbasi, does that work for
you as well?
Yes, and it's 6:30 on Tuesday would work for me.
Somebody replaying back what we just said?
Sounds like it.
Okay.
Yeah, here, Echo.
I just wanted to make sure there wasn't a very delayed echo in my office. All right, so I believe that concludes all matters on this case, 20 UPEB 01. Is that accurate? Anyone have anything else on this case?
No, sir.
Okay,
That would be it on that one.
great. Then we will move to our second case, which does have slightly different issues. Well, slightly different legal arguments, but then there are also some signature arguments as well, with this case. So I'll call now case 20-UPEB-02. This is Betty Wayne, objector, versus Roosevelt Martin Jr., candidate. And could the people who are here on either of these parties please identify themselves?
Pericles Abbasi, the attorney for candidate Roosevelt Martin Jr. And I believe Mr. Martin's here on his iPhone, also on the Zoom call.
That's correct.
Mr. Erdman?
Yes, I'm
Could
ready.
you just, for the record, again, identify?
Yes, yes, I apologize. Scott Erdman, Erdman, on behalf of the objector.
Thank you both very much. So the objector's petition in this case, as I mentioned, does have a signature component to it, where there were 36 total objections that the objector made to Mr. Martin's petitions. So what we did at the last meeting was we scheduled a records examination, and the board appointed me as the records examiner. I went to the Will County Clerk's office and reviewed the signatures, which, by the way, I learned afterwards is not how most of the municipalities in Will County are doing things this election cycle. We got special treatment somehow where we actually got to do it in person. Other municipalities are just receiving the signature sheets, the records by mail. But they told us to come in, so we came in, and both the candidate and the objector had a representative at that records examination. And we went over each objection. I had allowed them each to make their case on each line. There were actually 33 lines that were objected to, total of 36 objections. I'm referencing right now the records exam summary report, which I provided in advance to the Electoral Board. Do you have that in front of you?
Yes.
This is a report summarizing what we saw on each individual signature line and what my rulings were and whether they were objected to by the representatives. The line-by-line report is the report of the records examiner, which I also provided. You also have that?
Yes.
So
Yes.
that gives you a little more detail about each of the objections. But the summary report is what's important here. Of those 36 objections and 33 objected to lines, the records examination resulted in, I made 20 sustained rulings. So there were 28 occasions, 20 of those lines, or rather, sorry, 20 of those objections that I determined were valid objections and sustained them. There were 16 objections that were overruled. Now this records exam summary report, I note a mistake in the way the summary is, where it says total sustained lines, total overruled lines. Those should have been objections, not lines. The point of it, though, is that at the end of the day, at the end of all of this, the total number of unchallenged signatures was 110. And when you factor in the number of overruled objections, you have a total of 123 valid signatures. And the minimum needed in this race is 62. So by this records exam summary, and based on those rulings, the candidate would have 62 valid signatures. But we need to enter that into the record if the board chooses to. So I would ask I would ask for a motion, and you can just say so moved if you agree with this. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Erdman.
I believe there's a maximum on this file. So 5% and an 8%, correct?
Yes, there is an 8% maximum for independent candidacy.
So what, and that was the reason for the minimum number of objection sheets that you were working with, because we went beyond what the maximum was, so that if there was any question about whether a line should be included in that maximum or not, we would have gone past it to include enough to where we were looking at 99 signatures. The 99 and I believe it's 99, Perry. Waving.
Mr.
The
Abbasi?
minimum, it's either 8%. The minimum is either 8% or 50 more than the minimum. So the minimum is actually 112, not 99.
I apologize. So then, if you can take a look at, for the record, at the sheets, and at 99, I ended at sheet 11, line 3. So if we're looking at 13 more, 1, 2, 3, 8. Then the actual, I believe actually at the end of the signatures in consideration would be sheet 12, line 7.
Sorry, and board, I'll explain. Does the board follow what's being discussed here, or do you need more explanation?
No, I follow what's being said.
Okay. Mr. Erdman, please direct me to, because I might be missing it. In your objector's petition, where do you allege a deficiency based on exceeding the maximum?
It's the the statute controls. I don't need to object to signatures above what the maximum that can be submitted in is. It's there. And I believe that your rules address that as well. What the definition of, I just had them. Hang on just a minute, I'll pull them up.
I see it, it's Rule 11.
Right, so the board has established how they're handling this in harmony with what the statute is.
Thank you very much, Mr. Erdman.
I think that record has to be clear for when we move to the legal questions, because they are slightly different than those made in the first case. And
I understand what you're saying. Thank you.
thank you.
So just to read for the record what Rule 11 states, whenever a statute places a limit on the maximum number of signatures that may appear on a petition, and the nominating petition contains more than the statutory maximum number of signatures, the number of signatures on the petition shall be counted from the first signature on the first petition sheet, excluding any signature that was properly stricken in the manner provided by statute, and no signatures after the maximum number is attained shall be counted or used for any purpose, including but not limited to the records examination process, further evidentiary hearings before the board, including those to rehabilitate signatures or otherwise in any attempted attack upon or defense of the candidacy. So, do we have an agreement between the parties on what that maximum is then at 112?
Yes.
All right, so then, Mr. Erdman, you're saying then that the count should stop on line 2 on sheet 12?
Line 7.
7. It should include the signature on line 7, page 12.
Thank you, yes, because sheet 6 is not a full sheet of 10.
Yes.
Mr. Abbasi, you agree with that?
Yeah, I just counted, and that's where I ended too.
If you'll just give me one moment. All right, then I will reform this records exam summary report. I'll do it right now on the record, but then I will send a new report as well to the board, and that will be what's considered part of the record then. The new records exam summary report should indicate that there were 18 sustained lines and 11 overruled lines. I've removed the 2 sustained objections and the 5 sustained and overruled objections after 12-7.
Okay.
Do both attorneys agree with those calculations then?
Yes.
Can you repeat that?
Sure. I removed
So
the 2 objections that came after 12-7 that were sustained. I took those off of the total, and the 5 that were overruled, I took off of the total. So then that leaves
18 sustained. And 11.
I'm sorry, could we take a brief recess while I just recalculate this?
Please.
Sure.
And if I may as well, I believe there were, out of the first 112 signatures, I believe 87 of them weren't objected to at all. So just on the unobjected, he has more than 62 just by my count.
And-
but
And that's
you know, we have
that's the
record
number
here.
that I was going to
Yes.
check on. Yes.
Yeah, because
Right,
that's what
but
I'm checking too.
for the record, we need to establish that
Right.
impacted by the further reduction if granted on our other objections. So it's something we get to, we establish that hard number and then look to see if the old, even if you put on everything you're asking for kind of argument. But
Okay, you're breaking up, Mr. Urban.
I'll let Mr. Morton do his math and then we can come back.
I would ask we would just go off the record here, and then we'll come back on the record after I've recalculated.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank
I
you.
can get some water.
right, before we go back on the record, and I know we're waiting for Mayor Rudez.
I'm
The
here.
numbers, oh, there you are, great. So the number I have that we'll go on the record with is I have 86 not objected to. So 112 signatures, 26 lines objected to in those 112, leaving us with 86 not objected to. And then 11 of those objections were overruled for a total of 97 valid signatures. Does that comport with your math?
Could you repeat those numbers again, please?
Sure. And I will repeat it for the record as well when we go back on the record.
Oh, okay.
But I have 112 signatures, 26 lines objected to. That leaves 86 not objected to. And of the 26 objections, 11, hold on. One second. Yeah, 11 were overruled. So that gives me 97. Mr. Erdman, does that match what you have?
I went about it the other way. I went all the way up to that and then counted ones that weren't objected to, and one where our objections were overruled. So I basically subtracted the signatures that were objected to and sustained at your records exam. I came up to 95. I don't think that we should hold up to, over those two, and then move to the legal arguments. And if it matters, we can take a closer look at it.
Thank you very much.
A minimum of 62.
Right.
All right. Is everyone ready to go back on the record?
Yes, we are. I am, yeah.
Back on the record. Thank you, everyone, for your patience. We had an opportunity to recalculate the results of the records exam. None of the rulings have changed, just the math has changed because of what Mr. Erdman pointed out about the maximum and board rule 11. The numbers we came up with are 112 signatures, being the maximum. 26 of those 112 lines were objected to. 86 were not objected to. And of those 26 objections, 11 were overruled. So you add the 86 to the 11 and you get 97 valid signatures. So that is the number that in our revised records exam summary report, above minimum signatures needed 62, the total valid signatures will read 97. And that is the report I would ask you to adopt as the board's own ruling. Are there any questions?
No.
Then as
Madam Clerk,
Ms. Jones?
But the clerk hand is up.
I was just to move, to adopt.
Oh. Okay.
Perfect.
Yeah. To adopt the signature ruling, records check as at 97.
Is there a second?
Second.
Vote. Member Jones?
Aye.
Member Bowling?
Aye.
And Chair Rudez?
aye.
All right, that passes 3-0. So that signature check has been adopted. Thank you very much. We now move on to the motion to dismiss that has been filed by the candidate. The objector's petition here is a little bit different from the previous objector's petition. Some different issues raised, some of the same issues raised. So we will start in the same manner, though, where we are considering the motion to dismiss. And I'll ask Mr. Abbasi if he's ready to argue that.
Yes, counsel. So it's a little different, but some of the one issue from the last case is also in play here. So I don't think it makes sense to redo those arguments. But I would ask the board to readopt its decision that member of the Board of Trustees and village trustee are synonymous terms and both mean village trustee. Because part of the objects to certain sheets that say member of the Board of Trustees instead of village trustee. So I would ask that, and this is paragraph 19 or 18 and 19 that bring that up, that there's confusion based on that. So I would ask for those to be stricken for the same reasons that the board adopted in candidate Lewis's case, case 01. The other allegation in legal objection in the objector's petition deals with 10 ILCS, a part of the election code of section 10.4 of the election code that requires each petition sheet to have the same heading. And in the candidate's petition sheets, candidate Martin's petition sheets, some of them say member of the Board of Trustees, some of them say village trustee, and others, he wrote both of them. And so the allegation is that the heading isn't the same because they use the different terms in different sheets. However, the Illinois Appellate Court dealt with this issue and said when each sheet is describing the same office, then there is substantial compliance with the requirement that each heading be the same. And this case is Weissner versus Brennan. That's an Illinois Appellate Court case from 2016. In that case, and that was interpreting section 710 of the election code for primaries, but it has the same language that the heading of each sheet shall be the same. And in Weissner, the candidate submitted 80 petition sheets. Sheets 1 through 58 described the office that the candidate was running for, and she was running for judge, described it as resident circuit court judge to fill the vacancy of the Honorable John T. Elsner for the 18th Judicial Circuit. On sheets 59 through 80, it described the office differently, and it described it as judge of the circuit court to fill the vacancy of the Honorable John T. Elsner for the 18th Judicial Circuit. So sheets 1 through 58 described the office one way, sheets 59 through 80 described it another way. The appellate court found that there was no basis of confusion because on each sheet, candidates sufficiently described the office because there was only one such office to be filled. The court further said, candidates substantially complied because the designation on candidates' petition sheets adequately informed the voters of the specific office sought and did not lead to voter confusion. Here, because as the Electoral Board determined in the candidate Lewis's case, in the 01 case, that village trustee and member of the Board of Trustees are synonymous and describe the same office, we have the same situation here, where each sheet, whether it says village trustee or whether it says member of the Board of Trustees, or it says both, some of them, in all cases, it's describing the same office, and there is no confusion to the voters. The voters that's describing the office of village trustee. And since it describes the same office on each sheet, the appellate court in Weissner versus Brennan said that is substantial compliance with the requirement that the heading of each petition sheet shall be the same. The objector also raised an issue that some sheets have a different format with the three boxes, the boxes that have the candidate name, the candidate address, and the office sought. However, each sheet has the same heading. Each sheet has the same words in the box. Like we had said, the office is a little different, but each describes the same office. And there's no requirement that the formatting of boxes be the same in the election code. 10.4 doesn't say that each box has to be, you can have two on this side or versus one here and versus three in a row. And because it doesn't have a requirement, the formatting be the same, and each sheet has the same language, the same header in the same language. What the objector is asking is for the Electoral Board to read something in the election code that isn't there. And the Illinois Appellate Court in Kudrup versus Sims said a court may not read into the election code words and provisions that are not expressly included therein, or which may not be fairly implied. Therefore, because each sheet has the same language, it substantially complies with 10.4 of the election code, that the heading of each sheet shall be the same. And for the reasons stated earlier, even though some say member of the Board of Trustees, some say village trustee, some say both, the appellate court in Weissner versus Brennan stated that that's substantial compliance because they're all describing the same office, as this electoral board had determined in the prior case.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Abbasi?
No.
Mr. Erdman, a response?
I would I would adopt our arguments from the first case on the definition raised by us in the statute, but I would move on to the headings on the sheets. The definition of same that we have to use from the statute is the standard definition that people use and are evidenced by dictionaries and such. It's not slang. It's a word that's definable, and just a quick, just an initial search on the internet brings up definition of same as identical, not different, of an identical type, exactly similar, the same thing as something previously mentioned. That is what these sheets should comport with, because they're being placed before the public, and the public has a right to the consistency that 10-4 requires. The different headings, the different offices listed, we stand by our argument as to the meaning of board of trustees, and further, it's just what you place on there. If they put on their member board of trustees, and then on another one you put trustee, village trustee, and the other one further you put member of the board of trustees and then village trustee on that same sheet. They're all different sheets. They create a different heading on each sheet, and that's the nature of our objection under 10-4. That those sheets don't look the same from sheet to sheet.
Questions from the board?
No.
No?
No, sir.
Mr. Abbasi, any response?
Just quickly in reply, the Objectors Council is asking you to ignore the precedent of the appellate court, which has said that you may have substantial compliance with the election code. And as the court said in Weissner versus Brennan, when each sheet is describing the same office, even though it may describe it slightly differently, there's substantial compliance with this requirement that each heading be the same. So the appellate court has dealt with this issue, and they've said that, again, since the office is the same, each sheet is describing the same office, that substantially complies, and that puts the candidate on the ballot. Thank you.
Mr. Erdman.
No more. No, excuse me. Nothing more. No more.
No more.
Nothing more.
I agree.
You sounded tired.
All right. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Board, again, you are faced with a motion to dismiss before the objector's petition. And I would put that the issue is the same on the motion to dismiss as it was the first time. The question, well, actually, things are, no, it is the same, actually. It's a little bit different. The question here, I would posit, and again, either council can interrupt me if they disagree. If you find that the headings throughout the candidates' sheets are the same, then the motion to dismiss should be granted. If you find they're different, then the legal arguments surrounding whether that matters would be taken up in the other part of the argument, so you would overrule the motion to dismiss.
Okay.
All right, so if there's any discussion, feel free. And this is a little bit different from the first one because you have more variations between boxes.
So then. So this is Trustee Bolden. So the argument is on this particular one is that some of the petition sheets read member of the board of members of the board of trustee Village of University Park. And some, there's a few that doesn't have the same heading. So that's the argument.
Right, and so the motion to dismiss would be arguing that that difference is inconsequential because there is no difference, that they are the same. Each of these boxes is the same. If there's no further discussion that the board wants to have, then I would just ask someone to make a motion, either sustaining the motion to dismiss or overruling the motion to dismiss. Again, if overruled, then another motion would be had on the petition itself. Clerk Jones?
I make the motion to dismiss the objector's petition.
So moved. I second.
Seconded. We'll do a roll call vote. Member Jones?
Aye.
Member Bolding?
Votes aye.
Chair Rudez?
Votes aye.
All right, that carries 3-0. The objector's petition is dismissed. Again, I would ask that we return for a continued meeting on Tuesday at 6:30 p.m. That is Tuesday, the 26th of January at 6:30 p.m. for the board to adopt the findings and decisions of the electoral board. Does that date still work for everyone for purposes of this part of the meeting?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. That's what we'll do. And now, Mr. Erdman and Mr. Abbasi, what we'll do on that Tuesday date is we'll have electronic copies of the decision signed, and then the very next day I will drop it in the mail, and that day that I drop it in the mail will be considered the date of service. Does that work for both parties?
And can you, that would work. And could you email the decision as well?
Yes, I'll email it as well. Yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Erdman, did you have something?
Could I hold on for just 1 second, please? Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, you're making a lot of noise cleaning your desk,
Put on mute.
cleaning your desk.
My apologies.
He's just moving.
No problem. Did you have something else, Mr. Erdman?
No, I apologize.
Okay, I do have one additional thing in that time lapse, just to correct the record, and I would just ask for a vote by ascension here, but I do agree that the 97 number I mentioned earlier was incorrect. The number should be 94. 94 is the number of valid signatures. I know. Mr. Verdez, you're laughing, but I'm sure of it this time.
Okay.
You guys are getting closer.
Well, I think Mr. Abbasi's home run is over the wall, whether it lands in the upper deck or the lower deck.
Home run's a home run.
All right, now, is there any other
Thank you, Mr.
business to
Erdman.
come before this board?
No, thank you, sir.
So,
No, sir.
is there any public comment?
I received none.
All right, then I would ask for a motion to adjourn.
So
Not
moved.
adjourn, sorry, a motion to continue.
To continue.
Tuesday.
Motion to continue to
Now,
6:30.
is there any other business to come before this board?
So
Have a great
moved.
weekend.
Is there any public comment? Oh, the repeating is happening again,
Yeah.
sorry.
Okay.
All right, then I would ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved. We just
We'll
continued.
continue
It's
this,
repeating.
yes.
So move.
All right. I have a motion by Trustee Bolding, seconded by Mayor Rudez.
Oh, clerk.
Oh, the clerk, okay. All those in favor, well, we have to do roll call because it's Open Meetings Act. Trustee Bolding,
Aye.
Clerk Jones,
Aye.
and Mayor Rudez.
Aye.
All right, we're adjourned at 7:16 p.m. Thank you very much, everyone.
Okay,
Thank
see
you.
you
Thank you
Tuesday.
all.
See you on Tuesday.
Thank you, Perry.
Goodbye.
Have a good evening.
Thank you. Have a good weekend. Enjoy the football Sunday.
Amen. Wear
Thank
your
you.
mask and practice all of the COVID guidelines, please,
Absolutely.
please.
Always.
Okay. All righty. Good night.
Good night.